So it's my pleasure to have a very high power panel here to deliberate on some of the issues which really can make private equity play a very, very important role in this healthcare delivery mechanism. So let me start by introducing the panel. We have Vikram Gupta from India Venture Advisors, Nitish Agarwal from Relige Venture Capital, Alok from HSBC Private Equity Advisors, and Deepak Gaur from SAFE Partners. The way I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each of them to actually introduce themselves, tell us something about their organization, what's their fund's vision for healthcare, and how do they see, what are some of the areas they've covered. And after that, I think we'll start with the discussions. I think we'll start with Alok.
Thank you, Rana. My name is Alok. I look after the venture fund activities for HSBC in India. We have a pool of capital of $230 million from Hong Kong with about a 40% allocation for India. We invest in transactions ranging from $10 to $25 million across sectors. This is the third fund in its lineage. We've been here for quite a few years. I have personally joined about a year and a half ago. In terms of the focus on healthcare, we obviously have a very strong focus and a liking for the sector, albeit it is slightly more expanded than healthcare, as the way Rana said it. We look at pharma, we look at R&D services, we look at CROs, all sorts of things. Just to give you an idea of our present exposure to the sector, we have invested in a company called Trivitron about 2.5 years ago. This is a company in the medical devices and diagnostics space based out of Chennai. We have also recently, last year, invested in a company called Fino, which is not really relevant to healthcare, but they do something pretty interesting. They are one of the largest distributors of health insurance for the government of India. They work in the rural markets. The government has a very innovative program called the RSBY, the Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana. And Fino is one of the partners which works in various states like UP and Bihar to distribute these health insurance packages to the rural population, and they essentially distribute and service it along with tie-ups with ICICI Lombard and other insurance underwriters. So that's really the exposure we have today to the healthcare sector as a fund, but obviously we are looking at the sector quite closely, and I'd like to just also talk through some of the challenges we face while evaluating this. Thank you.
Now I'll request Deepak to tell us something about the SAFE Partners.
Good morning, everybody. I work with SAFE Partners, have been there for around 4 years. We are a $2.2 billion fund based out of Hong Kong with exclusive mandate to invest in India and China. I personally lead the healthcare investment sector for SAFE Partners in India. We have not closed the investment in this sector in India yet, but we have a fairly significant presence in investments in this sector in China. And I would talk about some of those investments and the distinctiveness which I see between India and China. But very keen to explore this sector. In terms of our investment mandate, given our two-country allocation, we have a very flexible mandate in terms of deal sizes. We can go up to, we can do venture deals, we can do very late-stage deals also. So happy to be here and look forward to the session.
Next we have Nitish from Relige Venture Capital.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm Nitish. I'm working with Relige Venture Capital, but I'm more focusing on our joint venture with Milestone that's called India Build Out Fund, so which is focused on healthcare and education. So those are the two primary themes, besides infrastructure ancillaries and media, which are the minor themes. We have approximately $100 million, and we are a domestic fund right now. And we have already made 2 investments in the healthcare sector. One is a multi-specialty hospital in southern India, which is one of the leading hospitals there. Another is a super specialty chain called HCG, Healthcare Global, which is the leading oncology chain in India. So we do have a big focus on these 2 sectors, and we are going in for another fund also. which will focus on these sectors. But we focus on stages that are not early stage companies. So any growth stage investing is we look at with a ticket size of $5 to $50 million right now.
Thank you. Vikram?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I run India Venture Fund. And just to give you a brief, I think probably this is the only fund in the market which is solely focused on healthcare life sciences as a sector. In fact, we believe so much in the sector that we believe that you can actually dedicate a fund for this sector. I actually conceptualized this fund about a couple of years back, and basically this is a 500 crore fund which is purely raised in the domestic market. And so far we made only one investment, which is in a hospital, a multi-specialty hospital in the south. The idea we're looking at, the way we have structured the sector, we actually look at three verticals within the sector. We look at healthcare delivery as one vertical, which of course includes the hospitals, etc. Pharma and biotech is the second vertical we're looking at. The third vertical is basically includes other businesses like CROs, diagnostics, medical devices, retail pharmacies, even medical education, and any other businesses like healthcare IT, healthcare BPOs. So it's actually, if you see the healthcare theme runs across all kind of businesses that we're targeting. Typically, you know, initially we started with the concept of basically doing a 40 to 60 crore as an average deal size, but we are also open to doing smaller size deals, you know, somewhere around 20-25 crore range. So that's just in a nutshell what the fund is about.
We'll begin with you. So you took a long time to make your investments. I mean, you studied the scenario, looked at the Indian landscape. You had a prior exposure to the West. So what were some of the roadblocks, or what were some of the deal breakers which came in the way before you could actually finally make this first deal of yours?
Actually, you know, quite honestly, you know, when we started this fund, of course, there were a lot of apprehensions within the group also. In fact, it took us a long time, in fact, to do some internal convincing as well that this, from a private equity angle, it makes a lot of sense. Primarily because, you know, as we all know, you know, healthcare delivery especially, there's a long gestation period, lots of other risk factors, including, you know, there's a lot of medical technology involved and, you know, obsolescence as being a factor there. Plus, of course, the issues of, you know, trained manpower and the availability of such people as a constraint. So obviously all those issues have been there as one of the primary, you know, roadblocks for us to, you know, get this on the way. But at the same time, of course, and of course, the other main part is that typically a private equity fund comes with the concept of, you know, 3 to 5 year kind of a time frame for exits. And that actually becomes one of the, you know, fundamental drivers. You know, if you're looking at a hospital which is trying to scale up, even trying to become a network of hospitals, but if they're looking at greenfield expansion, the challenge then becomes is like it's going to take 2 to 3 years to build the facility, and another 2 to 3 years to reach a break even, and then, you know, when are you going to make money? So that kind of becomes a big challenge. So the idea, you know, of course, you know, everybody's now, there's a lot of players obviously in the sector who are going after the assets which are limited in size, in number. And of course, therefore, the challenge is only building up. But at the same time, there are various models which we are looking at right now. We believe that the opportunity is only going to grow. So we are quite excited overall.
Thank you. Nitish, one thing I wanted to ask you, you know, whenever anyone gets private equity, one of the things he looks at, it's smart money. So you also bring in your expertise. So to what extent do you feel that in your investments, you're also participating and helping them grow?
That's one of the very important factors, and that is something that we really want to do going forward. Unfortunately, it has been a very short period since we made our investments right now. But our partners do believe, especially the kind of network we bring in, although anybody in whom we invest in knows that particular region, geography, or that particular specialty well enough to run that. But we, as a group, we can focus on resources and on connections within the industry to help expand that particular entity grow, especially on the management bandwidth. Because what we feel is that management is something, especially at the top level, that almost all healthcare delivery providers need to spruce up a lot. Most of them are being run by doctors, and they have been run as smaller organizations, and they need help in managing the strategy and the finance structures especially, and what to look forward to in the future.
So are the players receptive to what you say? I mean, many times, a doctor is very insular and he's very not open to actually taking any advice, and we've heard this quite often. And this has been a sore point between the investor and the doctor. So in your case, you think most of the doctors are receptive to this?
Yes, in our case, they have been receptive. Actually, this has been the criteria for going with us, because they do believe that they've reached a certain stage, and growing beyond that is something that they want to bank upon our experience in addition to what specialty and expertise they bring in. But it's you're right that not everybody is open to that, and we don't want to interfere in the day-to-day working of any organization. We were not there to run organizations. We take minority stakes primarily.
Thank you. Deepak, you've not done any investment in India as of now, but you've obviously done a lot in the Chinese market. So the Chinese and the Indian are the largest growing markets. So what are some of the areas you've worked there, and what are some of the learnings you're going to utilize when you do your first investment in India?
So, as I mentioned earlier, we have been fairly active in the healthcare space in China, having done close to five investments there. I would first kind of contrast the differences that we see between the Indian businesses and the scale that they have versus in China. So I think those differences are primarily across two dimensions. The first one is the market size and scale. I'm sure everybody would agree, just given where China is, most of the industries have a different market size and the corresponding scale of the businesses in them. However, to add to that, my personal observation is that even on the entrepreneur side, just the aspirations which they set for themselves and what ideas that they are open to is something which I find very distinct compared to India. So to give you an example, last year we closed an investment in Novast Pharma, and that company is essentially trying to do what Ranbaxy and DRL did in India, doing manufacturing in China, selling to developed markets, and following the same value chain. But the openness of the entrepreneur was to an extent that he actually hired people from India, from ex-Ranbaxy kind of a team, and he put them there. So that is something which I do not see, or it is rare in the Indian business ecosystem. Second is just in terms of business models that they're open to. So there is a company, Yuan Gan, and that is the largest, China's largest in-hospital advertising network. So they have tied up with all the small and large hospitals in China and run dedicated shelf space for digital as well as print media and advertising. Again, something or businesses which I have not seen too much in India. Maybe it is because of the market size. Similarly, there is a company we have in the traditional Chinese medicine space, which is doing very well. The entrepreneur has organized that market and is developing his own brand. I have been trying very hard to look for companies for past 1 year to do the same thing in the Ayurvedic space in India. But just the openness of entrepreneurs to either have private equity or to increase the aspiration to become a global player is something which I've been slightly disappointed. So overall, I would say those are the two big differences that I have seen. That said, I've spent a limited amount of time, close to 1.5 years on the sector, and there are many, many unique advantages we have as a country, and I'm quite hopeful of closing transactions in this space.
Thank you. I think that insight into China is very important, because I think a lot of Indian entrepreneurs are also looking whether, they can hospitals, very successful, run by a single doctor. He has limited management bandwidth, but he's doing a great job, to all credit. But he doesn't know how to expand. He doesn't know how to take it forward. So how are you actually going to address this issue when you're going to look at investing into India?
We've actually been trying to address the issue. We don't have a solution. I think the point Vikram made is typically private equity funds have a 3 to 5 year horizon, and it becomes very difficult to justify. We see business plans where the entrepreneur is showing a 2017, 18 figure, and he's saying, we'll think about an exit at that point of time. That just doesn't work. It's very difficult to justify a 7 to 8 year business plan. You start at the point you made about you break even after 3 years, greenfield type project. You start making money after 5 years, some money, and then you exit after 7 to 8 years. It just doesn't work. There are just a lot more businesses out there which are that much more attractive. So that becomes a big challenge. I think there have been very limited successes in the roll-up strategy. There was a case of a large private equity fund doing something a few years back. I personally don't know what happened to that, but there are challenges. I don't think it's easy. So, and again, just to the point Vikram made is that there are very few good assets and there are a lot of people chasing them. So the other variable which comes in is valuation. Today everybody wants to peg themselves on the top two, three listed companies, and they're trading at very attractive multiples. So that becomes another challenge. How do you justify a valuation for a single standalone hospital? And I think I'm not a technical expert. My colleagues are, but I think the moment you start scaling out even from one side to another, the entire management dilemma becomes that much more challenging. So I don't think there's a single answer to this. I think it's going to be an evolutionary process. I think consolidation will start to happen. Ironically, we're seeing consolidation happening in the path lab space, which is, there are hardly half a dozen large players, but we're seeing consolidation starting to happen amongst themselves. But I think consolidation probably is one way forward. And I think regional chains will then evolve into national chains and become larger and larger. And I think, I'm not that knowledgeable honestly, but I think there will be some overseas interest for companies to come in today and dip their toes into the water.
No, I think that's the way, because I think we're still a very nascent market if you compare with the other markets. And the last point you made, I think there's a lot of foreign interest of people who want to actually aggregate hospitals. Coming back to you, Vikram, one of the things he spoke about is, the 7-year horizon. Now, given that there's only limited quality asset, do you think the private equity needs to adopt a different strategy when it comes to healthcare?
Exactly. So, in fact, if you look at a healthcare asset, purely from a financial investment perspective, it's going to be very, very difficult, because, if you just talk to a single hospital or a single entrepreneur and, basically look at his own vision in terms of, the kind of, scalability he's talking about, typically it becomes very challenging. So that's why I think what is important is to look at the big picture and see what are the other possibilities from an overall healthcare perspective. Can you bring in other models? Can you look at an integrated healthcare model? Can you look at synergies between different healthcare entities that can be brought together? Consolidation is not only from the perspective of, aggregating, one type of business, like for example, diagnostics aggregation or a hospital aggregation, but it's also synergies across different verticals within the healthcare. So what we believe that, as an example, hospital at the center of the overall healthcare, if you look at the other business models like CROs, SMOs, all that, there are possibilities when you actually look at just a 3 to 5 year horizon. The way you have to look at it is, when I come as a private equity player, not only I bring the money to the table, I also bring a lot of intellectual capital to actually help this entrepreneur think differently about the healthcare business itself. Are there other, partnerships models available? Are there there's lots of things that can be done, when you look at much bigger picture.
Right. And I think that's the way to go. Nitish, one of the things you said, you'd invested in a cancer hospital. That's so, I think going ahead, how do you look at single specialty hospitals? I mean, worldwide, if you look at the evolution, it goes from multi-speciality to a single specialty hospital to a place where today in the West, they're looking at single procedure hospitals. If you look at the Shoulders Clinic, they just do hernia. So I think the evolution starts from multi-speciality to single speciality, where your hospital is a center of excellence. So what are some of these challenges in actually looking at this model? What are some of the, the revenue streams which you have, which are not there in a which are not there in a single specialty as compared to a multi-speciality? And how are you going to deal with that?
I think in terms of the challenge, the major challenge is to look at deals, because there are not many organizations that have achieved that kind of scale that maybe a private equity player like us that is focusing on growth stage can focus on. So this was a very interesting deal and a very unique one in that sense. It has achieved a scale and has been doing things right all along for a number of years, and it has been invested into by other private equity funds in the past. Actually, there are 3 other private equity investments into this fund before us. So it had all those. So it had all those systems and all those good things about it that we wanted in a player like this. But there are not many, there are not many opportunities like this one. But we do believe this space will pick up fast, and people who can actually focus on this kind of a space, which is a specialty, will do well, provided they have the capability to achieve scale. But there are very few ailments for which this can be achieved, I believe, right now, although I'm not a specialist in healthcare. One is cancer, other is maybe heart. So we're trying to look around for more of these kind of opportunities. And the other thing that you asked is whether there is any revenue stream that is missing from these kind of super specialty chains. The revenue streams are pretty much similar. Like they have a pharmacy, they have a patient in IPD, OPD, operations. For cancer chain especially, operations are not that big a part. It's more focused on diagnostics also. But primarily the revenue streams are similar to multi-specialty hospitals.
But I think that's going to be part of the ecosystem going ahead. We're going to have more and more single specialty hospitals with more and more niche areas which they will cover. Deepak, one of the things is in India we focused a lot on hospitals, on inpatient care, but some of the growth stories abroad have actually taken place in what's called the ambulatory, that's the outpatient care segment. Have you looked at this space in India as of now? And because private equity typically in the West has invested more into this space than actually invested into the inpatient space.
Actually, that's one space. That's one space in which we have looked at some of the companies, but I think as other panel members mentioned, we hit against the wall of scale, and have not yet met a player who could convince us that the scale bar with time will go away. Although we like the sector a lot, because unlike hospitals, the capital requirement is lower, the break-even periods are shorter, and there is a definite need in terms of increasing access and reach to that care in remote as well as tier 2 towns of the city. But we are still talking to or exploring a couple of other options in that, but we always end up at the scale bar.
Right. So Alok, is there something you've looked at the outpatient space which you think is interesting, or any areas you feel would grow in that space?
Actually, yes, we've looked at a couple of deals there. I think the point is that there are 2 or 3 very interesting companies in the space. but they're at a very early stage. I think they're rolling out their plans. They're going city by city. And again, we come down to the same dilemma that you need to have a 7 to 10 year horizon for this industry, right? Intuitively, it looks good. They're asset-light models. They're rolling out well. The real estate costs, they're smaller locations, smaller sizes. So the capital intensity is lower. The maintenance capex is lower. So on a medium-term basis, it makes sense. But I think they're still at a stage where they're not even EBITDA break even. So personally speaking, for a fund like ours, it's a bit early. But yeah, I think it should be a decent model to look at.
Vikram, you've had experience in the US, and typically you've seen that you're able to scale up ambulatory care much faster. If you look at daycare surgery centers, or you look at specialized, clinics, they scale up much faster than what happens on the inpatient side. So are you looking at some of these areas?
See, actually, one of the biggest differences between the Indian market and the US market, the US market is primarily driven by insurance. In the Indian market, the insurance is still struggling in the sense that, unless the patient stays there overnight, it becomes very difficult to actually do all this reimbursements, etc. That's part of the reason why this ambulatory care has not been picking up in India. But at the same time, I believe that now, especially in the last couple of years, if you see, lots of hospitals and healthcare entities are realizing that insurance is going to happen. So therefore, this single specialty or ambulatory care is going to pick up. And in fact, many of those are early stage right now in India. But at the same time, if you're looking at, early stage investments, I think there are a few opportunities that we have looked at personally. We believe that they can be scaled up significantly if you actually, really take them and pick them at this stage and help them grow. Just to give you some examples, like if you take, fibroid as an example or gastroenterology as an example, I think these areas, even eye care, I think some of these areas eye care is probably more advanced as compared to the other areas, but I think it is going to happen. I would think that another couple of years you would start seeing a lot of growth in this area.
And I think one of the impediment to this was that, insurance required you to be in a hospital for 24 hours. I think that requirement's gone now, and most of the insurance companies are willing to pre-authorize a procedure. So I think that's been a sort of a paradigm shift which has happened over the last 6 months. I'm sure that's going to really drive this. Nitish, any views on this area?
I would actually want to add to what Vikram just said. I think government also has another big role to play in this. For example, we've seen that some of the states have a program whereby terminal disease can be cured, can be financed by the government. Although there are some execution difficulties that the patients or the companies face there. So that can be a good game changer for especially critical ailments like cancer or heart disease, where the incidence is very high in India and it's expected to even grow higher very fast. And even the chains that are focusing on this might do well to take those government initiatives further and also work on a lower margin. So that will help those early stage players to achieve scale very fast.
Right. Alok, one of the things you mentioned was the aggregation, and a few private equity players in India have tried to aggregate hospitals, then put them under one banner and actually run it as a network. It's probably, as you said, we really don't know how successful it is. But is that something which would be interesting you?
Yes, of course. I think if there is, appropriate opportunity for this type of project, definitely. I think that would make sense. I think what panelists mentioned about management challenges then become that much more important because you're dealing with diverse assets, diverse teams, so on and so forth. But yeah, conceptually, yes, absolutely.
Because even from a private equity perspective, I think you do the greatest value creation if you have that. If no one's created that and you can actually create that network.
I think one fundamental point is in healthcare, in delivery. I think along with equity, debt has a very large role to play. right? So the moment you get scale, size, and cash flow, then your debt terms become better. You can, your margins, you can hopefully negotiate better with banks. Your margins become better. So then it becomes a scale game. So yeah, sure, absolutely, it makes sense.
Because I think the scale game works very strongly, and recently was speaking to some of the nursing homes. The whole reason why nursing homes are not able to compete is because the material cost is too high compared to what a hospital pays for it. So I think the whole model is not because they're not efficient, they don't have quality, but they're not able to compete because they don't have the volumes where they can purchase equipment and medical consumables at a cost. We have 10 minutes left, and I thought, let's make it interactive. So I'll open the session, and you can, if you like, you can ask any of the panelists. Please identify yourselves, and please let me know who do you want to answer the question. If it's in general, I'll then pass it on to one of my colleagues.
Hi, my name is Abhishek and I am from Technopack Advisors, and this is a question to all the panelists. I know that you look at a proof of concept with somebody who's looking at growth, particularly healthcare delivery I'm talking about. Now, if there is, you've all talked about challenges, and we are pretty clear as to there is an issue there. But if there are players now who want to come over from outside, and who have shown proof of concept outside, but they don't have a presence in India, would you be willing to participate there with those kind of players?
Yes. So we'll begin with you, Vikram. Does healthcare outside actually mean that you could replicate it in an Indian surrounding?
No, absolutely. That's definitely something which can be looked at. If a brand name is coming to India, trying to partner with somebody in India, and they're bringing a lot of value, because they've proven the model elsewhere. So, it can definitely be looked at, depending on how much investment they're looking for, what is the model, etc. But at the same time, the constraint that typically we have as a fund is we are a rupee fund. We have to invest in rupee, and we would be investing only the Indian entity. So we cannot invest in the foreign entity. So that's the constraint. So we have to look at it from that angle.
Yeah, absolutely. We would be open to this kind of an opportunity because they would really bring some value to the country and to the business. But we would also look at what kind of partner they are going with in India, because that's very critical in India for success.
Right. And I think, given health education would be one of the areas which really I see such sort of collaboration happening. Because with the foreign university bill now coming in, I'm sure most of the corporate hospitals, if you've seen, barring Manipal, have kept out of healthcare education. And typically, if you look at healthcare, there are three components. One is the healthcare delivery. The second is the academic part, and then the research. So this actually makes what's called an academic medical center. The only examples in India are actually only in the government sector, like AIIMS. So I think we're going to have many of them coming in, because if a university abroad has had its proof of concept, there's very little, especially on the education side, you would say, is not replicable here.
I would agree with other members that we would be keen to explore that. The quality of management team and that too a team which has a strong understanding on the Indian market would be a key criteria. I think the only other requirement would be that since it would be an initial stage of the business, we would like that there is a mutual recognition of the challenges, and effectively that means that everybody understands that there are risks involved, and then the valuations and other things reflect that.
We got a proposal a few months back, on something relating to IVF centers. So IVF centers, dialysis centers. I think there is a model there which is required, right? Again, the point you made is if it's successful overseas, will it be successful in India? Maybe. So what my colleagues mentioned, who's the partner, what's the business plan, how they're going to roll it out, those factors will become important. But definitely, yeah, we would look at stuff like that.
Dr. John.
Dr. John, Chief of Healthcare at HIRCO. 4 people sitting here, 3 investments in India. Rana and the girl before showed a lot of prospects in the Indian healthcare industries. Most people talking, when we are talking of healthcare, immediately the focus shifts from hospital to the pharma, to the medical diagnostics, to the equipment side. The need that Rana showed on the slides is, I don't think so it's the diagnostic, I don't think so it's the pharmaceuticals or things like that. It's more on the hardcore bed needs, things like that. Does it mean that the PEEP is the hospital at a nascent stage, healthcare? When I'm talking of healthcare, I'm talking of hospitals. Are hospitals at a nascent stage where they are still to go through a growth plan? Or is it the PE thing that is at a very low stage in our country? It needs a rethinking, it needs a strategy to get involved. Other thing is that it's a common blame that people play, that hospitals don't have management. I think Rana and I, we have all managed sufficiently large hospitals. And they have, I don't think so in India there are hospitals that don't have a very, very strong management or finance teams with them. No hospital can survive without those 2 things. And currently, most doctors, when they reach a certain stage, most of them do go on their own to learn finance as well as administration. And the third part that I wanted to say is, all investments made in already a goose that is laying a golden egg. No one wants to invest into something which is absolutely bland and raw. I would like your views on that.
Alok, we'll begin with you.
Sir, I couldn't agree with you more. I think there is a challenge. Infrastructure conceptually as a sector is drawing a lot of money, both on the equity and the debt side. Hospitals, I think, have had a challenge over the years. I don't think there is any single or simpler solution. Most private equity funds, and I'm not saying all, but prefer to invest in businesses which are asset light and have an ability to enter into an exit mode, in the form of an IPO or a, M&A within a 3 to 5 year horizon. Unfortunately, healthcare delivery doesn't lend itself very easily to that. I think that is a fundamental bottleneck. Now, until and unless there are ways to resolve this, I don't think there's any single solution to this. I personally, I don't think there is issues of management at all. I mean, there are. I'm sorry, I won't say they're not, but I think that is a challenge which one can work around sitting with the entrepreneur. We've invested in so many other sectors where we've told the entrepreneur to bring in a management team if we believe he's weak in certain reasons, finance, marketing, business development, whatever else. I don't think that is such a big challenge. It is something which can be addressed. But fundamentally, I think healthcare suffers from a problem that you need a lot of capex in the beginning and you need a lot of capex right through in terms of maintenance. And the continuous pumping in of money, if I can say, becomes the biggest deterrent for a classic private equity fund. If you take some of the large development institutions, they're funding healthcare all over the place. So I don't know. I mean, I don't have a straight answer to this question.
Yeah, I agree with your point on the management bandwidth of Frank. It is not possible that somebody would have created a great institution without the capability or the desire to have good management. And that is an addressable problem and something which we face across sectors. We are invested in close to 18 companies, and that is something which is not incurable. There are standard methods of doing that as long as there is alignment with the entrepreneur. On your point on why there is limited investment, I think it comes back to the sample, you can call it sample bias or other things, but what each of us represents is a private equity asset class. and the mandate that our investors have given, which is to get in at max by get in and get out in 5 years with the minimum hurdle rates, with a particular risk profile. That is one of the drivers why there have not been that many investments in that, and each of us is constrained by what we have promised to our investors. It is not that I would agree with you that if there is need and there enough people realize that there would be other financing mechanisms, development institutions are one, maybe a government-sponsored fund could be other, but conceptually all of us are more suited for slightly higher profitability, I would say shorter time to profitability or lower capex kind of models. In terms of whether the private equity is evolving, unfortunately, I am not equipped enough to answer that. I've just spent 4 years in the industry, and I see it changing every year. So it is evolving for sure. So is every other industry. So is our country, and all of us are at a very nascent stage. I would say even US is evolving. They have not figured out what to do with the industry, what to do with their venture capital arms. So we all are learning. I would not be pessimistic though. I think we are becoming better every year. We are figuring out ways in terms of creating either super specialty hospitals, which Vikram mentioned, or specific disease-based chains, which did not exist. And I would say some of their proliferation has been because of private equity and venture firms which have backed them. In fact, eye care is one of the categories where you have seen many players which have scaled up. In medical equipment, again, we know of some of the investments which have happened, and I'm sure more will happen. And the industry is, I mean, the private equity asset class is facilitating broadly in the framework it is supposed to follow.
Thank you. Nitish, how do you address this dilemma that, you know, by the time you really create value, it's already 7 to 10 years. So is private equity not the best vehicle to actually be funding healthcare delivery in India?
I think for any early stage opportunity, private equity can be good if it's focusing on venture capital, and US is the best example to have achieved that. But the significant difference, I've worked for a short while in the US in this industry too. So, and Vikram would be better to answer this or add to this or modify my viewpoint. It's the scale that is prevalent in that industry, in that country. So you can fund a new venture, and even if it's asset heavy, you can see that company achieving a maybe $200 million turnover in 3 to 5 years. So that kind of scale is, nobody looks at that kind of scale in India today. So how many players are there which have a $100 million turnover in India, in this industry? So if you are investing maybe $25 to $50 million, and your success rate is going to be half, because for early stage, it is typically half in the US. So where does that leave the private equity investors? So the kind of private equity that will do well to focus on this is early stage investing. And unfortunately in India, the healthcare industry has been growing in the recent years only, and private equity has also stepped in very recently. So both will need to reach a certain stage where there will be a convergence in kinds of opportunities that people are looking at, and the kind of people, the kind of opportunities that are provided to the private equity players who are focusing on early stage. But I do believe that will happen with the kind of management bandwidth expanding fast, and with the kind of players that will focus here. It's unfortunate that we had to face this financial trouble in the world in the last 1 or 2 years. Otherwise, and venture capital has been the hardest, to my best of knowledge, in the US in this phase, besides buyouts. Buyouts have come out of that, but I think venture capital is still to come out of that space where it was really hit hard. So, but those players will see those players entering into India and focusing on these kind of opportunities. I don't know whether it will be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Vikram can add.
Yeah, Vikram, so what's the horizon you see?
No, in fact, I mean, just to add to, I think I completely agree with what has been said here. But I just want to make one point here. in the history of private equity, if you see the entire history of private equity, the second largest deal was a healthcare deal. It was a hospital, a group of 175 hospitals, HCA, which is actually, three private equity players came together. It was a buyout deal. They actually converted a public entity into a private, and then actually really cut down the flesh, and really brought the numbers down, and actually profitability was increased significantly. But of course, as said, U.S. market obviously is much matured, both on the private equity side as well as on the healthcare side. In India, both these areas are emerging. So, if you see actually the healthcare industry itself coming up, private equity sector also at early stages. So, I think, but I would, I feel very excited that we are at times when, these are the most exciting times, I think, in the history of India, where, you are getting to see, a fundamental shift, not only in the private equity space, but also in the healthcare space. So that's.
No, I think you brought out a very relevant point. HCA, after the private equity, it actually got its best figures ever it did. So actually, the three private equity players were really able to focus the business. And I think that's been one of the big turnaround stories, because had that not happened, HCA was going pretty much downhill.
I'm Benny Malai from Avanor Systems, and I have a question regarding the general industry. Wherever we go, we don't see hospitals which have 90% occupancy. Many of them seem to have 60%, and they're always struggling to increase the capacity that they have. So we're talking about growth being multifold, but the existing infrastructure is already not fully utilized. And then we have a number of medical colleges which have come in. They are struggling to get patients in because they've got huge infrastructure built in, and they actually go out and canvas to get patients coming in. So what do you think is the real scenario in terms of capacity utilization, the existing capacity that we have in India, how is it being utilized? And what do you think is going to happen to actually help India absorb this, huge increase that we're talking about going forward 4 times or something like that? Currently, we're not using everything that we have. So if we're going to increase by about 400%, how are we actually going to make all that investment work?
Yeah, I think you're very right. There's a whole dichotomy. You have hospitals where you have a waiting list of 100 people, but you have hospitals which run at 50% occupancy. You have this whole thing also that people also want treatment in the metros today. So you have very good hospitals in tier 2, tier 3 cities which are not able to attract patients. As a result, investments there are not being made, because people really don't have the faith that they can deliver that care. So I think in India it is very skewed. While we would like to say that everything we build has 85 or 100. In a hospital, typically 85% occupancy is taken as 100%. But I think that hasn't happened, because I think healthcare in a way is a different market where some of the established players are really being able to skim off everything, because people have faith in them, and that's how it comes about. I think the whole story is actually having the second rung of players come up. And today often we've seen there's a huge difference between the first rung and the second rung. So as a result, anyone who has the financial means tries to go for the first rung players. And I think we need to have an alternative. And I think it's happening. We've seen a lot of hospitals. We did recently a study across 124 Indian cities, and we're really seeing that secondary care, upgraded secondary care hospitals are coming up in every area. Anyone like to add anything to that, Vikram?
I'm Sundararajan from Siemens. There is a lot of focus on treatment aspect of healthcare. I would like to know the panel's perspective on mass screening, because he was mentioning about hospital capacity not being utilized, and there was a common question about scale being an important investment factor. The main feeders are the large population, whatever be the income. And there is very little focus on screening the population for either early detection or early health, or being the feeder for the tertiary care. I feel there is very little investment either by the government or by any of the financing agencies. Can you throw any perspective?
I think if you look at it globally, predominantly this is the preserve of the government. And the public healthcare spend, as I showed in the presentation, is probably one of the lowest in India. While I think there's a lot of screening which private hospitals do, of course, especially I would give an example of the Arvind Eye chain, which has managed to go and screen people in all areas of Tamil Nadu. But that's been an exception. There is no real revenue model for the private players to do mass screening. Also, I don't think we can really absolve the government of its responsibility in screening, in vaccination, in primary health care. So I think once you have a more robust system in the public sector, obviously many of these treatments will. I think the role of the government is also changing, and I alluded to that, from actually the delivery of care to financing care. But the areas of that where they want to strengthen, including the primary health care, and I think that is very important. You're very right. I think a country pays a huge price because disease is always detected at a very, very late stage. And the cost, both for the individual and the country, is actually phenomenal when you do treatment there.
I just want to add one point to that. I can't comment on screening, but as I mentioned, we've invested in this company called Pheno, which is rolling out the government health insurance programs in a few states, in a few districts. Now, what it does is, for a family of 5, you need to pay a premium of 30 rupees a year, and the government insures you up to 30,000, right? And they underwrite it with insurers like ICICI Lombard and the others. And what we understand, this is anecdotal, what the Pheno people tell us is because the guy is paying for it, he wants good quality service. He wants good quality care. So he will go and ferret out a private sector hospital who's part of the network in his district, rather than go to a government sector hospital, right?
Actually, this is very relevant to insurance companies because they are actually paying out a lot of money for tertiary care. And if screening were done, wrong type of cases would not be sent for tertiary care. It would actually reduce their outflow on a year-to-year basis.
I think going ahead, I think the insurance companies are going to look more and more on wellness and the preventive health. Unfortunately, there's been very little focus, and all the focus is on curative. But I think if the healthcare system of any country has to succeed, and I think the US is a typical example, if you look only at curative care, you have a problem because often the country can't just afford the cost of healthcare.
Yeah, in fact, even in US, as an example, I spent a lot of time with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and basically, there also it's a challenge actually because what they're trying to build is obviously disease management systems where they can actually do all this pre-screening, etc., to cut down the cost of insurance, etc. In India, there are a few wellness initiatives that have started, especially on the corporate side. Of course, it's going to take a lot of time before this actually goes into the masses. But I think once this is actually, proven on the, in a selective, on a selective basis, I think you would see this happening more and more.
Morning, my name is Aditya Mani. I'm associated with a health IT company and also with a company that has investments in healthcare delivery. My question is a general question for all, and it basically is, we were recently involved in one of our hospitals being involved in a buying and a selling, and most of the valuations that were done were very traditional valuations, which are balance sheet based valuations. And when we're looking at scale, how important is it in owning hard assets? Because that particular hospital was on a rented premises, which meant, lower capital and meant easier scale. And then we also came up with a plan where we had to do, say, a scale up in terms of having a cardiac practice group with all the unbranded hospitals in Delhi. And again, that was looked at with a very different view. It was looked at in terms of how many hard assets you really own. And the same thing happens when I speak to investors when I'm sitting on the board of a health IT company. They again look at it in terms of hard assets. So hard assets would typically slow down the whole scale up. Why is it that if something like that slows down the scale up, why is it that investors tend to look at that before investing in?
Vikram, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, actually, there is a challenge. I mean, if you look at the healthcare delivery particularly, there's a huge real estate cost involved there. So, of course, when you're thinking of scaling up the model, it is going to be a challenge. In the US, especially if you see, there are healthcare REIT models available where they try to separate it out and the healthcare services is, a separate part. In India, of course, it's not going to be that easy. It's going to take some time before you're able to implement such models. So I think, unfortunately, that's the nature of the sector. You need, it's a capital-intensive sector. You have to invest in hard assets. But at the same time, you have to focus maximum on the, sweating out your assets, making sure that how best you can utilize your assets. And if you have a model, if your business model is addressing that, that's when you actually, look at, the returns. So basically, I think, but I agree with you, it's a challenge, and it's going to be a challenge at least for some time.
Yeah. Nitish, I'd like to ask you just something related to this. Is that we had the Fortis Wockhardt deal, and Wockhardt was running a lot of hospitals where they were doing operations and management. So how would those hospitals actually bring value when the deal happens? So if I'm an investor today, does it make sense that I own the hospitals, or does it make sense that, I become an operator?
It's actually, it works both ways. And I can tell you from a fund perspective, we do look at all kinds of deals. Our primary criteria is whether there is possibility of achieving the required cash flow, and whether there is, at present, there is a good cash flow that is being generated. We don't focus on whether the hospital wants to own particular assets or not. Even if it's a long-term lease, we are very fine with that. We have actually worked with a couple of deals to find out opportunities in other geographies. Like, for example, they were focused on particular geography in South India. We're focusing with them on other regions within South India to look at hospitals that are not being run well, but would rent out for the long term, and there we would go in, and the advantage there would be that the capital cost would be low, and we'll, at a very early stage, within a short span of time, we'll get to know how that is planning out.
Right. Deepak, do you think in India also we'll see an emergence of, hospital operating companies, similar to what's happened in the hospitality side, where some of the large brands just run hotels? They really don't own the hotels. They take it on a lease and run. Do you think something like this, or is there some thing which in China has happened on this account?
Again, in China, we have not invested in a hospital management company as such. Whether it will happen in India, there is no reason to say that no, it cannot happen. Obviously, there is a possibility. But in terms of whether, I think it essentially will boil down to what extent are good quality entrepreneurs and people who are already running hospitals willing to completely give up their individual brand, come under one umbrella, and if that happens, and to learn from the practices from the brand, and if that is possible, it could definitely happen. But I would say healthcare is slightly more involved, and also each, suppose if I go to Agra or Aligarh or other town, and I want to brand it as an Apollo hospital or other hospital, there could be a debate whether, and I want to go with the best guy there. I'm not sure whether the Apollo brand would, will the best doctor be willing to give up its brand, and will he gain anything or will he lose? I think it's a very case-specific question. So it would depend on what is the definite value which big brands are able to bring, either in terms of patient flow, medical technology, or other things.
Alok, so we spoke about this management bandwidth. So do you think this is a solution, having companies which just focus on the management?
See, again, not specific to healthcare. I think if you look at it in a very pragmatic way as a private equity investor, when you come into a company, you obviously come in because you see a spark, probably both in the business as well as in the entrepreneur. If he has a management team around him, great. That just helps. But and this is, I don't think private equity investors believe that they can do miracles. But what they can do is they can bring in financial discipline. I think that is, personally, we feel the single largest benefit we bring to the table. We don't understand the business. We invest in sectors, very diverse sectors. I think it would be trivial for us to say that we can come and change his business, or we can teach him his business better than he can do. I think we bring in financial discipline, we bring in systems, we bring in accounting, procedures, policies, so on and so forth. We essentially try and show him a portion of a path to a good, lucrative exit for everybody concerned. So I think that's where a private equity fund can add value. The team in the private equity fund will add value, and hopefully work along with the entrepreneur. I think in a country like India, it is trivial to assume that you run the business. You don't. The entrepreneur runs the business. And if he decides to take you for a ride, you don't have a choice. You go along with it. So you try and point him in the right direction.
I think most correct. We'll just have one more last question, and after that we have a tea break. Any questions? Since I see no questions, so I'll just sum up. I think we've had a very invigorating discussion. We've looked at it. I think got great insight from the private equity aspect. Also looking at how going ahead, what should an entrepreneur actually look for when he approaches a private equity. And I think from the private equity aspect, also looking at what are the constraints in India. How are you going to build a robust and viable mechanism for both delivery, pharmaceuticals, and the medical equipment space. I'm sure we can take these discussions forward, but for considerations of time, I'll close this session here, and please do join us for tea. Thank you.